So I'm going to begin. We are going to look at the paradox of step 6 in the 12-step program. We're entirely ready to have God remove our defects of character. And so I have been sharing, a couple of months since the fall about us, choosing, in order, obviously following the steps, and the wisdom that is within the steps, but also taking a deeper dive beyond the literal interpretation. But also Richard Rohr, in Breathing Underwater, shares that the teachings of Jesus can be seen and gleaned in them. And so how do we take that deeper dive to have another look and see? I'm not trying to replace your understanding of them, but as we evolve in consciousness, can we be open to seeing anew? And so that's what it's about. And so I just shared that because I'm going to spend some time on a passage in John chapter 5, verses 2 through 9, entitled The Healing at the Pool of Bethesda. Now in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool called in Hebrew Bethesda, which has 5 porticos. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One lame, paralyzed man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm making my way down, someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Stand up, take up your mat, and walk." At once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. So we are to look at the biblical text through the historical lens, and there's the literal, also to see what was going on historically. There's the literal interpretation. Many people just look to the literal interpretation and that's it. And then there's also the lens or the layer of the metaphysical, the metaphor, the symbolism. Jesus spoke, he taught in parable, taught moral stories, right? And he was a healer, a teacher. He's our way shower, not just one to be adored, although I adore him, but it is more than that. He called us to step into the teachings. And so first I want to look at the historical context of this, right? So in Jesus' day in Jerusalem, there was the pool of Bethesda. And people used to flock there for healing. It was a Jewish rite, healing ceremonies to, water is very symbolic. And there was this belief that, that it was holy, that an angel would stir the water, and if you would enter into the pool during that time, you would be healed. And so there is that context, Jesus would go to the temple. He was he was Jewish in nature, studied the Old Testament, but was one to teach the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. And so now we're going to just take a look and see What is the symbolism? What is the metaphor here that we're being asked to today be called into? And so notice we have within, what's side by side here? We have Jerusalem, the sheep gate, and the pool of Bethesda that is surrounded by the porticos. So let's take one at a time. Jerusalem we have been talking about during the last several weeks when we were looking at the 3 dimensions of life, and we were looking in the book of Revelations. Jerusalem symbolically means that place of peace within, but also it is the spiritual consciousness of the I am. And we can only discover that by going within. And how do we do that? And it's like we enter through the sheep gate, right? And that is where we take that time and where we're like moving away from our sense consciousness, which is the 5 porticos, which I will talk about in a moment. And we begin our affirmative prayer, we begin our deep breathing, and it is then we enter through the sheep gate into the Jerusalem within. We tune in, we tap in. We move from outside, what my mother said, my father said, the weatherman said, the president said, whatever, within. And we have that choice. Where do I find my truth in this moment? Yes, I need to look at the facts of the physical circumstances, but I'm going to enter the sheep gate to the I am, the kingdom within. Now, I already talked about the pool of Bethesda. Don't laugh at me, Vinny, or is it Michael? I was having a hard time with my tongue with that, right? So anyway, around the pool, right? That's where they would flock, but it's a pool of water, healing. In the porticos, we're laying the porches, the column, all the area around the pool, we're laying the lame, the invalids, the blind, and the paralyzed. They were waiting there. Waiting. And that represents us when we are in that state of resistance, waiting for the right circumstances outside here to happen so that we can walk the truth, do what we need to do in our lives, right? The 5 porticos also represent sense consciousness. We can never find our answers just by, if I can't see it, taste it, touch it, feel it, smell it. It can't be real, but the spiritual path is also what? It's a call to walk in faith. And that can only be discovered from within. And so when we're waiting around in that paralyzation, that stuck, the paralyzed man represents victim consciousness, all our excuses about why we do what we do that we know isn't going to lead us to our greatest healing in our lives, right? Yeah, I'm praying for me to release some weight, but I'll eat those donuts today, I'll start tomorrow. Very simple, right? But then we get more serious. No, I shouldn't say, we put degrees on things, right? But then we may get a diagnosis that might be serious and find it hard to do those things that we need to do to care for our bodies. or we escape on the computer or on our cell phones all day, or who is the guru, the greatest healer here that I can turn to fix me? Now, I do believe that we all have healing powers, and we all have different, each one of us, and we all, through the power of prayer and our consciousness, have impact and healing and influencing. And yes, there are people who have the gift of healing. But if I am not invested in that, in consciousness, it cannot last, right? It cannot last. It must be something that begins within. And so the lame man, the paralyzed man, the people waiting, represents that stuckness. 38 years of stuckness. I don't know, right? We have been conditioned. Some stories and trauma I have from when I was a little girl, and I've made so much headway, but there it was again for me this weekend, which I'll talk about later. And that trauma can bring up a paralysis for me in consciousness and bring up these fears that I'm like, oh, can't seem to shake this. And then we get to Jesus, symbolism of Jesus. He was an incredible mystic, healer, teacher, activist, way shower. He doesn't say to people, come worship me and you will be well. He says the kingdom of God is within. He says, we'll get to in a minute, pick up your bed and walk. He says, ask, look, knock. He says, these things and more you can do. He doesn't say, come over here, sweetie. I got the answers all for you. Now, yes, he was a compassionate presence, and he was vibrating pretty high. And there's a difference between, metaphysically, of Jesus, the man, and Christ Jesus. And he walked the human and the divine, and he, in consciousness, rose and was vibrating. That I believe that people had healings. But what did he say? Your faith has made you well. According to your faith, let it be done to you. Our power of faith, where is it pointing? Is it pointing in the direction of our worst fears that are not really grounded in truth, but are out of trauma, like an old story, right? That it's not safe. If somebody says something and is in a disagreement with me, or is questioning something I do, and I go back to that little girl who was humiliated in kindergarten, who was assaulted as a young lady growing up, while public surrounded and did nothing. And sometimes I don't realize that traumatic thing is being activated. But I must look, see. Is this grounded in any reality, or is this an old thing that is calling up for another level of healing in my life? And so Jesus or Buddha or Mary Smith, who does crystal work, yes, they're powerful. They can help us. They can be supportive people on our journey, but we must look and see and have the faith and claim it. So that is what he says to him. Jesus says to him, do you want to be made well? Free will. Hey, do you want to sit here and make excuses? He doesn't, do you want to be made well? Like, look and see. Are you invested in your old stories? It's comfortable. It's those comfortable shoes you know how to wear, but when you put the new ones on, you might get a little callus, a little rub. Do you want to be healed? Really? You could answer yes, but then you go back and do things that are not congruent with that in your action. So we ask them, do you want to be healed? He doesn't say, you poor thing, let me fix you. I got all your answers, come on. I have the right doctor for you, I have the right this for you, blah, 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 blah. Not saying that there are not times we offer things. And so what does at first, the paralyzed lame man says, I have no one to put me in the pool at just the right time when the angel comes. And every time I try to make my way down there, it's hard, somebody cuts in front of me. So what are your go-to reasons that keep you where you are? And then Jesus didn't say, you're really boring me. No, he had compassion. But the kind of compassion that's not codependent and wanting to fix you. And what does he say? Stand up. Stand up. Take up your mat and walk. The metaphysics here is about stand in truth. Know your wholeness. Claim dominion. Our daily word reading. Speak with spiritual authority. Know your wholeness. Where will you place your faith? And so in this reading, we have the call to having a passive spiritual life. God out there, he's going to fix everything. Or the pool is going to fix me, this is going to fix me, and I don't have to do a damn thing. Passive, right? But here we see the paradox of both action and surrender. Right? Stand. Look and see. Do you want to be made well? What are your excuses? What's not working for you? That's our action. It's like looking at the reflecting pool, metaphorically, within. And then the action is stand in truth. Turn towards truth. Turn towards the sheep gate and enter Jerusalem. It's not just going to happen if you don't set the time to do it, to go within. That's another call to action. But then there is that grace, that melding and mystery of melding into God after years of an old addiction and a pattern, and we keep trying and trying, but little but by little we let go of what is false, and we stand in truth, and we walk. We walk. What is that walking for you? But it is a call also to surrender. And so there is the paradox also contained, the same paradox contained in step 6. And it is, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now here it looks like it's a passive activity, right? I'm ready. Come on, come and get me. And I know I'm being silly, but sometimes we really do act that way. I'm just saying. So it's a call to action. Do I want to be made well? That's the readying part. It's the call to action. How can I be ready to have this grace in my life? So I look into the reflecting pool, like I said, just repeating. What are my thoughts? Where are they aligned? What are my beliefs? Faith is our convictions, what we believe will be. And if we energize them nonstop, sometimes, guess what? We're going to experience it. It's also turning away from the external to the internal and looking, what are my excuses, which I just said before. So there is that reflecting and acting of identifying that which we're saying no to, our power of release, which is our elimination, what we're saying no to, right? But I need to know that they're operating, because sometimes we do things on automatic pilot because we've been doing them for 38 years, and some of us maybe a little bit longer. And then the call to action, that is where we are turning towards the sheep gate and to enter Jerusalem. That effort, like I said, to take, right? That's the readying of step 6, to become ready, where we tap into the I am that is synchronized to the mystery we call God, divine mind, source, where we not just worship Jesus, we study his teachings. These things and more you can do. And then we stand in truth. We claim dominion, spiritual authority, mastery, and we choose to walk in that direction. And according to my faith, let it be done unto me. And then there is the surrender piece. I've looked, I've prayed, I've meditated. I even stopped doing X, Y, or Z, although sometimes I feel like I'm white-knuckling it, or I go back a step again. There I am doing that thing I didn't want to do. There I am in stinking thinking, victim consciousness. There I am turning to a drink, food, gambling, people to make me happy, so on, and perfectionism, you name it. Then I know I did an honest readying, looking and seeing, which was the previous steps, right? Where we identified our defects. But now we're becoming ready, we're looking, we're noticing every time it comes up, okay, there that is again. And then that surrender to the I am. I am open to grace, this mysterious experience where I am called to choose again and rest and let go. I'm not there yet. Is it done yet? Am I done yet? You know, do you ever get that thing where you've prayed, you moved your feet, and it's like, it's just not working? That is the mystery we surrender to in that process of knowing when we are truly ready. Yesterday, it took me a very long time to work on this or research this, and I even was talking to Donna last night whether we were going to be here or not, and I wasn't making too much sense. And what I shared with her last night, I think it's because I'm just exhausted. Yeah, I had a busy week. I was involved in Unity Worldwide Summit a couple days, and plus all the other things. But then, keep walking towards truth, keep taking that time to go within. And I was throughout the day, but it was like, okay, take it now. But when I was ready, something happened overnight, or before that, where I recognized the connection to the paralysis and the confusion that was alive. There was an experience that happened a day before, where someone said something not honoring, questioning me, and it just brought up some stuff, and in my mind I was like, oh, blah blah blah, but it was going back to, and then when I was able to look at that and be present to that, to be compassionate with that, I was able to walk. and feel joyous today instead of exhausted. So to melt into the divine mystery, preparing us for that alchemical healing of our blindness, of our lameness, our paralysis, our shortcomings, whatever you want to put in that. And so like I shared with me about something that happened way back, and here it is again, I do believe that healing can happen instantaneously. I do. I've had some of those experiences. But then we have to also recognize that healing is also a process, and when we are ready, we are ready. In Discovering Our Divinity, Reverend Linda Martello-Whitsitt and Deanne Morrissey talk about how they turn towards truth with two different healings in their life. Deanne was one where she had a back condition for years, but it was, I don't know, maybe 25 years later that she actually experienced the healing in her readiness, right? And so Richard Rohr in Breathing on the Water speaks to this, for us to have compassion for ourselves on this journey. The readiness to really let go, the recognition that we really do not want to let go, right? We have to be honest. Sometimes we don't. The actual willingness to change are all the work of weeks, months, years. 38, 50, 60. Be gentle with yourself. The fact that you're even aware of it is the first step, more than the first step, of fear and trembling or exhaustion, whatever word you want to put in there. And sometimes when we're in that place of a compassion, we can just say, oh, there that is again. So let us be patient. This is my addition. So let us be patient. Well, he shares it in another way, but so let us be patient and compassionate towards ourselves. Can we agree to do that? Yes. And so let us go within. And so I just invite you, how can you live the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of step 6? Where are you being called to ready yourself, to take action, to notice where you are attached to things of this world or old behaviors, excuses, things that no longer serve you? Where are you willing to look at spiritual truth? Take the time and effort for your spiritual prayer, meditation, and communion in divine mind, source, grace. And then are you ready? Because some of us are control freaks. It didn't happen, so let me take care of it. And where are you asked to surrender? What does that look like for you? And so let us become still. I invite you to gently close your eyes. Turn towards the sheep gate to enter the city of Jerusalem, the kingdom within. Into your heart space. As your human heart gives way to divine heart, mind, pure love, pure mystery, pure beauty and grace. And place your hand over your heart as I read these words. I stand at the threshold of healing, no longer waiting for outside forces to move me, cure me. I become entirely ready to rise, to stand and walk. And with honesty and courage, I look, see, and name the patterns that have bound me, the excuses that whisper, I'm not ready, the fears that murmur, change is too hard. The self-limiting beliefs that insist I will never be free. I bring them all to the light of love. I see them for what they are, shadows of the false self, the old fears, traumas, and I surrender them now. I relinquish my energy from them. The Christ within, the Buddha within, the illuminated consciousness within speaks to me. Rise, stand, take up your mat and walk. I no longer wait for the perfect moment. I no longer look to others for the answers. I step forward in faith, knowing that transformation unfolds as I say yes to it, moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. Oh, I surrender to the mystery of the divine potter, allowing old patterns to be reshaped, knowing that healing is not to be forced, to be controlled with a heavy hand, but mine to receive with an open and humble and willing heart. In this sacred moment, I embrace my wholeness. I walk forward, healed and free. Oh, open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom, and gentleness and grace for my confusion. And open unto me mercy and forgiveness for my mistakes. And open unto me love for my disdain. And open unto me thy true self as I surrender the false. O Lord of my being, I am that I am that I am. Open unto me in the stillness. Breathing in, I sense the breath of life. I sense the aliveness of peace, of compassion. I place my faith in my ability to rise, to stand, to walk in light and in truth. Taking a deep breath in and out, sensing your body beneath your chair, your couch, your bed, your floor, rubbing your hands together, placing them over your heart, offering yourself compassion. And then from your heart to the hearts of all of us, knowing our oneness, let us rub our hands and place our hands outward, offering our love to one another. So it is. Amen.